Welcome, I'm Sima Katauka and you're watching World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. The U.S. House of Representatives is expected to vote today on a bill to end the 6-week government shutdown. This comes as U.S. President Donald Trump has declared victory, praising Republican leaders, while Democrats remain divided over the deal to reopen federal operations. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro signs a sweeping defense law urging national preparedness amid rising U.S. tensions, while Colombia's President Gustavo Petro suspends intelligence sharing, with U.S. security agencies criticizing U.S. missile strikes in the Caribbean. Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand meets with counterparts from India, France and Mexico as G7 foreign ministers gather. Talks focus on Ukraine as the group of industrialized democracies seek a path to end the Russia-Ukraine war. French President Emmanuel Macron and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas have announced a joint committee to draft a new Palestinian constitution. They say reforms are crucial for a democratic sovereign state and stress peaceful coexistence alongside Israel. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the situation in Pokrovsk remains difficult as bad weather favors Russian attacks. He warns that Russia is intensifying assaults in the southeast Zaporizhzhia region, putting local residents and Ukrainian forces under pressure. Australia and Indonesia sign a new security treaty committing to counsel each other if either nation faces threats. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto emphasized joint action, close defense cooperation and regular dialogue. Australia's spy chief Mike Burgess has revealed that Chinese state-linked hackers have targeted the nation's telecommunications and critical infrastructure. He has warned that espionage cost Australia $8.1 billion in 2024 and could lead to serious economic disruption if cyber sabotage occurs again. The death toll from Typhoon Fangwong in the Philippines has climbed to 27 people. Meanwhile, in Taiwan, over 8,300 residents have been evacuated as the weekend storm brings torrential rain, severe flooding, and injuries, prompting widespread school and business closures. Now we start with U.S. President Donald Trump has declared a big victory over Democrats as the longest ever U.S. government shutdown edges towards an end. Speaking at a Veterans Day ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery, Trump has praised Republican leaders, noting several Democratic senators broke ranks to support the bipartisan deal. The compromise bill is set to reopen the government pending a House vote. Let's listen into what U.S. President Donald Trump has said.
And congratulations to you and to John and to everybody on a very big victory. We're opening up our country. Should have never been closed. Should have never been closed.
Meanwhile, U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has warned that flight disruption could worsen if lawmakers fail to end the government shutdown. Severe weather and cancellations have caused over 1,200 flight cancellations and 3,600 delays nationwide. Staffing shortages at air traffic control have improved, dropping from 81 issues on Saturday to just 4 on Tuesday. With more controllers returning, air travel is gradually normalizing, but Duffy has emphasized the urgency of passing the funding bill to prevent further disruptions and potential airline groundings. Let's listen into what the U.S. Transportation Secretary has said.
Over the last 3 days, as many of you have reported, we have had significant staffing shortages with our air traffic controllers. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, very rough travel days, significant cancellations and significant delays. However, today has been a much better day. A lot more air traffic controllers are coming in. So just for comparison, on Saturday we had 81 staffing triggers. Today we have 4. So I think our air traffic controllers are seeing an end to the shutdown and feel more hopeful, and they're coming into their facilities. So we're grateful to them for all that they're doing.
Now for this discussion, we welcome Matthew Wadham. He's an American journalist, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Matthew, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now,
good to see you.
Thank you. Now looking at this, how might President Trump's framing of this shutdowns resolution as big victory influence public perception ahead of upcoming elections? And how significant is this breakthrough or the political compromise that has enabled this bipartisan deal to reopen the government?
Well, it is definitely a big legislative victory for President Donald Trump and his Republican Party, which barely controls both chambers of the United States Congress. Definitely a big deal. So I don't think President Trump, who is known to exaggerate on occasion, I don't think he was exaggerating today when he said this was a big deal. It is a big deal. Americans are quite focused on it. And now it's starting to affect them because those people, those 40 million Americans who are dependent on food stamp assistance from the federal government, haven't been getting their food stamps for the last few days. And there have been major disruptions at U.S. airports because they are operated, I guess, largely by the federal government, and air traffic controllers and other personnel haven't been getting regularly paid. So they've had to dramatically reduce the number of flights. Now, the U.S. House of Representatives is expected to vote on this today. That is Wednesday. It's just after midnight here in the Washington, D.C. area. And it's expected that they'll vote on this late today, if enough House members can get back in time from their home districts. You see, because of the problems with the airports, they may not all make it back in time, so the vote may have to be held open. So I'm just, guessing. Maybe it won't be resolved until Thursday instead of late Wednesday. But when they do get around to voting, it's pretty clear that the government shutdown will end, and the Republicans have emerged victorious, even though opinion polls tend to suggest the American people believe the shutdown is Republicans' fault, even though really it's the Democrats' fault for continuing to vote against funding resolutions.
And what do you think, what lessons would this shutdown handling be for the government, and could this shutdown's handling redefine partisan dynamics in Congress moving forward?
Well, I think that it's taken a big toll on, while Republicans have looked bad in the eyes of the public, which tends to believe, in my opinion, unjustifiably that it's the Republicans' fault, the Democrats are tearing themselves apart over this because they're very angry with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, the Democratic senator from New York, for agreeing to end the shutdown. And they think that he could have done more to continue fighting for the Democrats' position. This shutdown was caused because Democrats wanted tax credits, expensive tax credits, more than $1 trillion worth, to be extended in the form of subsidies to people under the Obamacare Act, under the Obamacare law. So it's subsidy for poorer people for their health insurance, and they wanted, a big sticking point was that Democrats wanted illegal aliens to have their health care covered by the federal government.
Yes.
In theory, illegal aliens don't get federal health care, subsidized health care, but in practice they do, because a lot of the federal funding goes to state programs which are happy to provide government funding for illegal aliens to receive health care. So I think that this has been more damaging to, like, nobody emerges completely unscathed from a government shutdown, but I think it has done a great deal more damage to the opposition party, that is to the Democrats, than it has to the governing party, the Republicans.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Matthew for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving on to Venezuela, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has signed a sweeping new national defense law, activating what he calls integral defense commands, a system uniting civilians and the military against external threats. In a national address, Maduro has said that the framework calls for readiness even for armed struggle. To defend Venezuela's sovereignty, has also launched a new joint military police exercise, Independence Forces Deployment 2025, to test real-time weapons and systems across the country. Let's in fact listen into what the Venezuelan president has said.
Estar preparado si nos tocara como república, como pueblo, ir a la lucha armada para defender esta sagrada herencia de los libertadores y libertadoras, estar listos para ganar.
The move comes amid rising tensions with the United States after Washington hinted at potential ground operations in the region. Reports suggest that the Caracas is preparing for guerrilla-style resistance and street unrest if conflict breaks out. Meanwhile, Colombia's President Gustavo Petro has suspended intelligence sharing with the U.S., protecting its recent missile strikes on Caribbean boats. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Matthew Vadum. He's an American journalist, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Matthew, for staying with us. Matthew,
Sure.
Thank you. Now, Matthew, looking at this, what are the regional implications of Colombia suspending intelligence sharing with the U.S., and how might Washington's actions in the Caribbean influence Venezuela's military posture moving forward?
I don't think it's a big surprise that Colombia doesn't want to share intelligence with the United States, because their Marxist president, President Petro, is a rabid anti-American, communist who, on a recent visit to the United States, tried to encourage U.S. soldiers to mutiny against President Trump. He actually said that he encouraged U.S. soldiers to disobey the orders of the President of the United States, their commander-in-chief. So I'm not surprised that Colombia doesn't want to cooperate, but it's never good, I guess, for U.S. intelligence to lose another, partner. But the rupture is probably inevitable. Tensions are increasing in around the Caribbean Sea and in the northern part of South America, of Latin America, largely because of President Trump's saber rattling and his in that area, and his orders for the Department of Defense, that he now calls the Department of War, to destroy drug running boats. And some people say that he shouldn't be doing that, or that there's no proof that these people were running drugs. And I don't know if it's happened several times now, and I don't know the facts of each case. But a lot of people, not just outside the United States, but also in the U.S. Congress, think the president shouldn't be destroying these alleged drug-running boats without some sort of force authorization from the United States Congress. So that's a problem. And relations with Colombia and Venezuela have certainly deteriorated. And now you have the interesting situation of President Maduro of Venezuela suddenly turning into like Che Guevara. I wonder if he's going to start growing a beard and stop bathing soon. The man just said that he wants to use Venezuelan government said they're going to use guerrilla-like tactics if need be to fend off a United States invasion of Venezuela. And I think it's pretty unlikely that the United States is going to invade Venezuela anytime soon. I think that what the United States is doing by sending gunboats to the region, putting them in the Caribbean Sea and around there, is what has been called, fittingly, gunboat diplomacy.
Yes.
He is trying to get countries like Venezuela and Colombia to stop sending drugs to the United States. And I think that this is a threat, and it probably will not result in actual, military action. But, we'll have to see and wait what happens.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Matthew Wadham for joining us today and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand has met her Indian counterpart, Subramaniam Jaishankar, French counterpart, Jean-Noel Barrot, and Mexican counterpart, Juan Ramon de la Fuente at Niagara Falls. The meetings have taken place on the sidelines of the G7 foreign minister talks, where leaders and diplomats from the world's major industrialized democracies gathered to discuss pressing global issues. The discussions are expected to focus on the ongoing conflict in Ukraine as the group seeks a coordinated path towards ending Russia-Ukraine war. During the bilateral engagements, Anand and her counterparts explored ways to strengthen diplomatic ties, enhance international cooperation, and address shared security, economic, and humanitarian challenges. This meeting highlights Canada's active role in promoting multilateral dialogue and collaborating among the global partners. Now, for this discussion, we welcome Ambassador Suresh Goyal. He's a former Indian ambassador, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us again. Good to see you. Ambassador, thank you. Now, looking at this, to what extent does this inclusion of non-G7 countries, in particular, like this reflects a signal shift towards a more globalized defense and security framework? What do you think, what strategic goals could Canada be pursuing through meetings with India, France, and Mexico?
2 or 3 things here. In fact, if you remember, Foreign Minister Anita Anand had been to India recently. It was a bilateral visit, and there were substantial discussions between India and Canada on security-related issues, as well as trade-related cooperation, for which, of course, there is a different minister, but as we know that there's a lot of overlap. So there was extensive discussions during that visit. I expect that this current meeting would be a lot of follow-up on what happened during the visit to India. And some parts of that I would think would be in relation to the Khalistani elements who operate from who operate from Canada, as well as all the issues relating to I would say, trade-related issues, tariffs, and bilateral cooperation. This visit, I think, also in view of what has happened recently in India, would cover our own assessment, threat assessment, and what that could really mean. So my own understanding is that the meeting this time would be a follow-up, but more of a goodwill meeting, and really to also for the EAM to brief Anita Anand on developments in India yesterday in relation to the terrorist incident. Yes.
And how do you judge India and Canada relations right now?
I think with the change in the government, this current government has made a lot of effort to rebuild relations with India. The allegations earlier made against India about assassination of the Khalistani person in Canada those have been essentially put on the back burner, not the major issues in the relationship again. So I think on the whole, the relationship is on now comfortable track, talking about issues like development, sharing technologies, sharing the trade related issues. So on the whole, I think it is comfortable.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Ms. Ambassador Suresh Goyal for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now moving on to New Delhi's car explosion news. Eyewitnesses have described scenes of panic and chaos outside Delhi's Red Fort on Monday evening when a powerful car explosion tore through a busy market, killing at least 8 people and injuring over 24 others. The blast sent shoppers and families running for cover as fire and smoke rose into the night sky. Witnesses have reported hearing multiple smaller explosions as nearby vehicles caught fire. It was the first major blast in Delhi since 2011, leaving behind charred cars, shattered glass, and stunned crowds. Meanwhile, families have performed the last rites of victims. Let's listen into what some of the eyewitnesses have said.
मैं तो बस साइड में हो गया, मेट्रो के बगल में उधर खड़ा हो गया, चिल्लाने लगा। मैं इनको बुला रहा हूँ कि आ जाओ, फिर से भी ब्लास्ट हो सकता है, क्योंकि वो हल्का हल्का ब्लास्ट कुछ हो रहा था। वो ब्लास्ट तो बड़ा हुआ है, लेकिन पता नहीं क्या हो रहा था ब्लास्ट। जो भी उसमें गैस बची होगी, कार में हो चाहे और भी वाहन है, टेम्पू भी थे, बहुत सारी चीज़ें वहाँ पे थे। तो उसकी वजह से कुछ छोटा छोटा जो ब्लास्ट सा हो रहा था, तो मैं और घबरा रहा था और मेरे कान एकदम सुन्न हो चुके थे। मैं सिर्फ चिल्ला रहा था, उसके अलावा मेरे पास कुछ बचा नहीं था। मेरे से बहुत सारे लोग बोल भी रहे, भैया माइक लिए हो, कुछ कवर करिए, जाइए लोगों के पास, लेकिन मैं बहुत डर चुका था उस समय।
जब हम लोग रिकॉर्ड कर रहे थे, मेट्रो की तरफ गए, फिर गेट नंबर 1 लाल किला के सामने सेकंड वाली साइड में लाल किला के वहाँ पर कम से कम 10-12 गाड़ियाँ थी, इसमें 3, 4, 5, 6 गाड़ियाँ जल रही थी। और जलने के बाद इस एक पीछे बस भी खड़ी थी। एक ओला या किसी जो कैब वगैरह होता उसके ड्राइवर थे, वो बेचारे खून से निकले। कुछ लोगों ने हेल्प भी करी, हम लोग भी जितना हेल्प होता करे। उसके बाद एक ड्राइवर थे और एक कोई ड्राइवर थे, गाड़ी थी कार, उसमें वो लोग मतलब वहाँ से उनको अंदर खींच के किसी तरह बाहर निकाला गया और फिर वो शायद उनकी मौत डेथ हो चुकी थी।
कमाने वाला था ही नहीं कोई, अब वही कमाने वाला था, चला गया। हम बीमार रहते हैं, ऐसे ही बस थमा के बीमार, काम वाम करते नहीं है। नहीं, वो 12वीं करके पढ़ाई छोड़ के अपना काम में लग गया था कि पापा बीमार रहता है तो हाथ उपचा रहा था, मेरे को कुछ कमा रहा था, घर चल रहा था उससे। उसके छोटे 2 भाई बहन हैं, वो भी पढ़ाई कर रही है।
Police have invoked anti-terror laws as the investigation continues, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has vowed that the perpetrators will face swift justice. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Ambassador Suresh Goyal. He's a former Indian ambassador, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for staying with us. Now, what more updates have come through since the last time we spoke from yesterday on this news?
The security agencies seem to be still investigating the case. They are putting together the clues they have found on the ground through forensic investigation and conversations with several people who could have been involved in the plot. From the facts available from the media so far, there has been no official statement, and I think that is how it should be. Anything official should be said only after we have ascertained all the facts, and we can be sure of how the situation came to be. But according to the media, it seems that so far the clues it did lead towards it being a terrorist attack, kidnapping attack. They have ruled out any suicide attempt, but explosion took place rather in a haste, without full preparation. But yes, clues are still being investigated. And I think there are some clues which lead to connections in Pakistan. Jaish, one lady is connected to Jaish women's wing in Pakistan. But let us see what happens. I think it will not be appropriate at this stage to indulge in a blame game or blame anybody directly till we have all the information.
Right. And Ambassador, now what political pressures could the Modi government face in demonstrating accountability, transparency during this ongoing investigation on this, and how might this attack influence current India's domestic security policies?
As it usually happens whenever these kind of incidents take place, the government does come under huge pressure from all sections of the society, including the parties on the other side of the fence. It has happened, but I think it becomes government's responsibility even more seriously to ensure that the investigations take place quickly, so that the responsibilities can be fixed. Prime Minister Modi has already announced that anybody who is found guilty of this act will face justice and will be punished. So our intentions are the government's intentions are very clear. I think we should now wait for the investigation to be over so that we could proceed with the course of justice in this case.
You know, some particular individuals, few individuals' names have come up, and they have been traced. They're traced back to Faridabad or even Jammu and Kashmir. So, given these links, alleged links to Jammu and Kashmir and Faridabad, how might this incident affect the government's narrative and police policies on this about this tragedy?
I think essentially expectations were that there would be links of these elements with parties across the border. Jammu and Kashmir, there are we know that there are several elements who operate all across Jammu and Kashmir and some in the other states also, and therefore investigations have led to those people in Faridabad as well in Pulwama. There are some who have been traced even to UP, some places in UP. So these kind of connections are not very strange. The networks do operate very widely, but I think we will really have to wait to see how they all add up together before we come to a conclusion, before the government comes to a conclusion.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank our guest, Ambassador Suresh Goyal, for joining us and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now, moving on to Pakistan, witnesses of the Islamabad car blast from yesterday have described the deadly suicide bombing that has killed 12 people. Authorities have said that 27 people have been wounded in the blast. Officials have also stated that the bomber detonated near an entrance close to a police vehicle, and the area was quickly sealed off. Let's listen into what the witness of the attack have said.
50 का टाइम हो रहा था तो हम प्रेमिसेस में थे, कोर्ट प्रेमिसेस में. वहाँ पे अचानक से एक ज़ोरदार धमाका हुआ. जब धमाका हुआ तो हमने देखा कि उसके साथ ही एक सर कोर्ट प्रेमिसेस के अंदर आके गिर पड़ा. जब सर गिरा तो उसके बाद एक दो बाजू उस बंदे के आगे आकर गिर पड़े और उसके बाद एक भागम दौड़ मच गई कचहरी के अंदर, डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट्स में. फिर जब लगातार हम आगे पीछे भागे दौड़े तो ऊपर जाके फर्स्ट फ्लोर पे जब हमने देखा तो बाहर 2 गाड़ियां रोड पर, मेन रोड पर खड़ी थी. एक के अंदर मुकम्मल तौर पे आग लग चुकी थी और दूसरी गाड़ी वहाँ पे इंडिकेशन में थी. साथ में ही एक पुलिस की मोबाइल खड़ी थी. तो वहाँ पे जब ये इंसिडेंट हुआ तो हमने देखा कि काफ़ी सारे लोग जो हैं वो ज़ख्मी हो गए और काफ़ी सारे लोग जो थे वो सीरियस हो गए. ट्रामाटाइज तो देखें हद से ज़्यादा हुए हम. उसमें एक जो वकील साहब हैं, हमारे दोस्त हैं बड़े प्यारे, उनके साथ आज सुबह ही जब अदालत में मुलाकात हुई तो उनसे हमने कहा था कि जी आप हमें कोई, उनका एक लाइसेंस आया था कि मुलाकात करनी थी, हमें कोई हमारी गैदरिंग रखें आप. तो एक शख्स के साथ जब सुबह 10 बजे आपने मुलाकात की है और 12 बजे आपको पता चलता है कि वो ये दुनिया छोड़ चुका है, तो आप सोचें कि आपके जहन में किस तरह की एक तकलीफ़ होगी, किस तरह का एक मंजरनामा होगा.
Meanwhile, UN Deputy Spokesperson Farhan Haq has stated that UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned acts of terrorism in Pakistan. Let's in fact listen into what the spokesperson has said.
The Secretary General is deeply saddened by the reported suicide attack, and he extends his condolences to the families of the victims and wishes a full recovery to those injured. The Secretary General condemns acts of violence and terrorism in the strongest terms. He reiterates that all perpetrators of terrorism must be held accountable, and he calls for a full investigation.
Meanwhile, the spokesperson for India's External Affairs Ministry, Randir Jaiswal, has rejected Pakistani leadership's remarks connecting the blast to India as baseless. Earlier, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had blamed India for the attack. Sharif had also alleged New Delhi's role in an attack on a cadet college in Waha near the border with Afghanistan. Meanwhile, Pakistani Defense Minister Khawaja Asif has accused Afghanistan of complicity in the blast. Kabul has denied the accusations. Pakistan has also vowed retaliation if Afghan authorities fail to rein the people Islamabad says were responsible. No group has claimed responsibility so far for the suicide bombing yet. And that's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.
What we can do